check that in a minute. All right, good Monday evening, everyone. Thanks for stopping by for a check of your forecast. We've got a handful of severe warning storms making their way through the region right now. Figured it was getting active enough that we'd go ahead and just go live and talk about these with you guys through the remainder of this evening, so long as we have some severe weather again still in the area. Not all of these storms are going to be severe today. Some of them will be. So that is something that we'll have to continue to monitor. Just got a photo from one of our chasers. Trying to share this with a few other media platforms, and we'll go ahead and just kind of get going with some of this stuff pretty soon. So it looks like there was a 2-inch hailstone measured on that storm in Panhandle. That's what our chaser had sent us. So that's this storm here, which is warned for 2-inch hail. So that's appears to be our feistiest storm right now. It's kind of actually riding the outflow boundary, almost like a morphed supercell. Got some rear flank winds pushing out of it. Got some good inflow. So there's quote unquote some spin with that one. So that's probably why it's producing some better better hail growth. And that's why we had a 2-inch hailstone fall out of that one on the north side of Panhandle, on the north side of town. So that's the strongest storm. That one's warned until 6:30 p.m. for 2-inch hail and 70-mile-per-hour winds. It's coming across Highway 60 as we speak. So in between Panhandle and White Deer, don't want to be driving through that storm right now. It's got some pretty big hailstones in it that likely are probably falling on the highway right now, northeast of Panhandle. There was a pretty big hailstone just picked up on the north side of town there in Panhandle, which was 2 inches in diameter, so very large. That's going to cause considerable amounts of damage. We have another storm that's warned for golf ball sized hail. Actually, we just got a new warning for that one too. Let's see, that one's for 2-inch hail also and 70-mile-per-hour winds. Sorry, golf ball sized hail and 70-mile-per-hour winds. That one's near Puente. This one's almost like a morphed supercell as well. We've got borderline enough wind shear for these to be in that borderline between multi-cell structure mode and supercell mode. So it's going to be kind of messy, but these storms will probably be severe, especially these ones near the surface boundary that's continued to stall out here on the central Texas panhandle. We'll have to keep an eye on these. Again, if these take more of a southeasterly track, they could make their way into the north side of Amarillo here over the next hour or two. They actually just upped it to tennis ball sized hail on this storm. So that's that new warning that just populated there in Potter County. So that's 2.5 inches in diameter, which is very large. That's 2.5 inches. It's tennis ball size. You're getting close to the size of a baseball. That's almost a destructive tag for that storm. When it gets to baseball sized hail, uh, it's considered a destructive hailstorm. Rain rates are also pretty high with these, producing rain rates in northern Potter County around 3 inches an hour with the cell you're looking at there on screen. So certainly going to lead to some flooding issues as well. Sorry, just messaging the National Weather Service on those hail reports. So a lot of the mean spicy storms are up here in Potter and Carson County. We've got a few others kind of around the region. You actually have quite a few down towards Lubbock too. Let's go ahead and jump over to that radar so I can give you a better look at some of those. These are all sub-severe storms, so we won't focus on them a whole lot, but they are, again, really starting to blow up in scattered format. This is just the beginning of what will probably be a prolonged thunderstorm chance for this evening into tomorrow morning. These are expected to be the initial round of storms. There's going to be a second round that gets going in New Mexico, and as that continues to push in, this is really where we see most of our divergence aloft is actually down here underneath the trough. So we're getting some probably storms that will start to develop out here within the next few hours, and that stuff will probably impact the Amarillo area late tonight around 10, 11 o'clock. But this is just our first initial round that's developed. So we'll have kind of two windows to keep an eye on. But the main divergence aloft in the trough is coming through New Mexico. So you'll probably see some additional storms develop later this evening in a few hours. Let's go ahead and take a look at our Skycam in Bushland. You can see there's a really big rain foot on this storm. It's got a really stout downdraft. We'll zoom in on that thing. That is really impressive of a storm. Actually, I want to take a picture of it first so that we can share it with. There's a CG over there by Fritch Highway. I mean, you can if you watch this close enough, you can actually see the rain and the hail falling to the ground. So this is a rain foot. This is just a big signature for some strong winds being blown out from underneath that storm. You've got all that rain and hail continuing to evaporate as it gets to the surface. It's a cold pocket of air. Cold air is negatively buoyant, sinks to the ground, and has nowhere to go except out. And so that's where you get that visual appearance of rain and hail being blown out, almost like a tree trunk on this thing. And it's just a really good indicator of some very strong winds out there just to the northwest of Bushland, which that storm's warned too. That one's for 1 inch hail and 60-mile-an-hour winds. So here's another live look at some of these storms. This one is over in the Canadian River Valley. This one's kind of looking northwest. So this is that one I believe is warned for 2.5 inch hail and 70-mile-an-hour winds. That's that one up on the north side of Potter County. If we take a look, that's likely this one over here. It could be some of these up here, but that camera's looking northwest. So that's something that we'll have to kind of confirm. It could be one of these newer cells as well, but this one's pretty mean too. It's got tennis ball sized tail in it. That one's coming down 87, again right there between Amarillo and Masterson. So definitely don't want to be punching through that one. These storms look like they're moving more southeasterly now, so the north side of Amarillo may actually end up cashing in on some rainfall. Hopefully these start to fall below severe limits as they come into town, but they are starting to move more in a southeast direction. I think the southern cell will be the one to watch if we are going to see stuff on the north side of town here in the next hour to 60 minutes to 90 minutes. We could get some lightning-induced grass fires too. Some of these storms are producing some cloud-to-ground lightning strikes away from the core of rain. If that were to happen and some of that grass is dry enough, we could start to see some grass fires ignited by some of the lightning. Hopefully, these storms continue to fill in. We'll start to see maybe a better opportunity for some rainfall, which will hopefully snuff some of them out. But I would imagine that we'll probably get a couple of some. Wow. A couple of grass fires today. Baseball-sized hail was reported on Highway 287 north of Amarillo on the highway. So here between Puente and Marsh, there was some baseball-sized hail that was just reported. Baseball-sized hail would shatter a windshield. Don't want to be driving through this storm right here. It's currently warned for tennis ball-sized hail, but there was a report of a baseball hailstone that was picked up and observed from that one. We've got our full weather hit coming momentarily, so you'll watch me step away here in a minute. They're going to continue that Potter County storm warn on the highway for tennis balls and 70-mile-an-hour winds. So that's 2.5 inches in diameter. That's a very large hailstone. Good Monday evening, everyone. We're taking a live look outside at our camera over in Bushland. You can see we've got a pretty strong thunderstorm up there northwest of town. We actually got this rain foot. This is all the rain and hail falling out from underneath that storm. Again, that's just a big indicator of some strong winds with it. It is warm for golf ball sized hail and 70-mile-per-hour winds. You can see again some lower clouds, but nothing of any concern. Again, we don't have a whole lot of directional wind shear today, but we do have enough that maybe some big hailing supercells could be possible. At least that's what we're kind of dealing with right now. This is kind of between a multi-cell and a supercell structure on that storm just northeast of Panhandle. It did produce some 2-inch hail on the north side of Panhandle in town. And again, that one currently warned for up to tennis ball sized hail. Right now, still currently situated over the highway. Don't want to be driving between White Deer and Panhandle with that storm. It's warned until 7:15 p.m. Got a few others. This one also warned for tennis ball size hail north on 287, north of Amarillo. This one warned for golf balls. Again, these are really the strongest ones that we're dealing with across the viewing area, but we do have a few other cells to the south and southwest. These are just, again, a little bit less intense in nature, but those stronger storms right now over in the Canadian River Valley continue to move generally south and east at about 10 miles an hour. It is just a marginal risk for today. 70-mile-per-hour winds is still think is going to be our biggest issue from a severe standpoint. We are expecting flooding to probably be a bigger problem, though, on a more widespread level. These storms are producing rain rates currently observed around 2.5 to 3 inches per hour if you're in the core of them. If those, again, are a little slow to move, that's going to lead to some of those flooding concerns. You can see the model doing a pretty good job of picking up on some of those storms in Potter and Carson County. Then the model just blows it all up into a big linear complex in the south portion of the viewing area by 12, or rather 2 a.m. Tuesday morning. A lot of this should be out of the area, but still could be kind of a busier overnight hours for us too. As we get into Tuesday morning, we'll be in the 50s and 60s. Can't rule out a stray shower tomorrow, but it should be much drier than where we've been. Let's go ahead and take a look at your 7-day tracker. We are expecting a gradual warm up in the second half of the week, so temperatures will be a little bit above normal, but nothing crazy. We're not expecting widespread triple-digit heat or anything of that nature. Then we'll start to see some really sporadic isolated storm chances come back into play this weekend, and then moving into next Monday. All right, we are back, y'all. Thank you for being patient and waiting for us to get through with our full weather hit. We've got a handful of storms up there. Looks like we got a new warned storm up there in Gray and Roberts County. That one just to the south of Miami. We'll have to dig up some info on that one and see what it is. Probably warned for some 1-inch hail and 60-mile-an-hour winds. Usually that's when they get that initial warning, that's about what they usually put it out for. So it's ping pongs and 60-mile-per-hour winds. Moving east at 5 miles per hour. So we haven't noted a whole lot of really broad rotation in any of these storms. We've got some outflow boundaries starting to collide. This may allow for storms to develop much closer to the Amarillo area here in the near future. You can see we've got an outflow boundary right in here. I'll wait until it kind of finishes, but we've got one right in here. It's just passed through Pantex. Got another outflow boundary right in here that's moving to the southeast. So you've got air coming out of these thunderstorms moving southeast, winds from these storms moving southwest. So that's probably all going to congregate and just allow for maybe that southeast corner of Potter County or close to the airport, close to the National Weather Service office, up here in the northeast side of Amarillo. That may be where we see our next round of storms get going, just with these boundaries as they continue to collide in that direction. But we'll go ahead and show you what it looks like on radar. Got another cell that continues to pulse up there over Lake Meredith, right around the Fritch area. You guys are seeing some pretty heavy rain right now. This cell that's over in Carson County that was producing that 2-inch hail over in Panhandle looks to have mostly cleared the highway at this point. You're probably going to get a window in between these storms where you probably won't have much going on the highway, but there is a severe warning storm out here too. And we did just get a cell to pulse up there north of Pantex as well. So obviously that outflow boundary starting a few storms here closer to the Amarillo region. And we'll continue to watch for maybe some additional storms to develop on the north side of town here over the next hour to 90 minutes. So the Storm Prediction Center's given us a 20% chance for a severe thunderstorm watch for tonight. So they're leaning towards not, but again, we will continue to watch it. So you can see there's a big outflow boundary, almost like a shelf cloud forming. We'll go ahead and show you our sky cam there in Bushland. You can see that shelf cloud that's starting to form. Again, this is not a wall cloud, y'all. This is just a shelf cloud. You've got some air flowing out from this storm. You've got warm, moist air riding up over the top of it. It cools and condenses into a liquid, and then you can visually see that cloud forming. So that's what you're seeing here, again, kind of through the telecommunications tower. Again, this is not a wall cloud. This is a shelf cloud. You're starting to get some scud to rise up over the top of this thing, and it's probably going to congeal into a shelf cloud as that outflow boundary continues to push off to the south and east. But that's what that storm looks like right now. So oof, that's a pretty big hail core that just pulsed up there on that storm that we were just looking at. This thing looks like it's moving right towards the north side of Amarillo too. Really big hail core up in this storm. Again, it's there. They haven't issued a new warning for it. It's still warned for golf balls and 70-mile-an-hour winds. So they're going to let this one expire. Again, this one has pulsed back down. Again, it's been impeded with the outflow surging south, cutting off its inflow. But we've got a pretty big core here. Again, these cores where you've got these really intense hail cores aren't, I don't expect them to last for very long. But they're just, these storms are moving too slow. The wind profile today wouldn't support these to be long-lived supercells. So I would expect them to probably pulse up, produce some really large hail briefly, and then probably collapse 10 to 15 minutes later. They are going to increase it to tennis ball size, though, on this storm that we were just looking at. This one with the really bright reflectivity showing up southwest of Bowdoin. We do have another cell that's pulsed up over Vega. You guys had a pretty good thunderstorm, for 15 minutes or so. May have produced as much as a half inch to 3/4 of an inch of rain in a small confined area.
So we were a minute and a half under since we didn't take the live shot.
So we're looking at the storm relative velocities on this. Again, this is a good indicator to use to find these outflow boundaries. There is some very broad rotation with that Bowden storm. Again, the outflow is surging out ahead of it pretty quick, so I would not expect it to maintain its intensity for very long. It'll probably be like these other cells that have pulsed up. You'll see some brief rotation in it. That's what's allowing some of them to produce some very large hail, and then they'll probably collapse pretty quickly. So again, the storm that's rotating is this one that we're looking at from the Bushland camera. Again, not ideal positioning. Again, that communication tower kind of in the way, but you can see again, we've got some scud and probably some what may eventually become a shelf cloud, because this is all along the outflow boundary, but it's just moisture that's rising up and over that cold, dense air and heading up into the storm. So that hail core is right out in here, just kind of in the center of this big rain shield. You can see we've got pretty messy rain foot where the winds are blowing out. Some of that rain giving it that rain foot or that tree trunk look at the base of, right here next to the ground. And so you're going to get some pretty strong winds with this. It's warned for tennis ball sized hail now. It's 2.5 inches in diameter. I don't expect it to persist at that intensity for much more than say 15 to 20 minutes, but it is going to produce some pretty large hail, and it is moving southeast towards Amarillo. So this is definitely going to be something to watch for town. So zooming out, we'll take kind of a broad view of things. You can see a lot of this stuff is just kind of centered just north of the interstate. We had a baroclinic surface trough that was staged up here, and that's where these storms have really fired. You've got a lot of localized convergence, so just a much better environment for those storms to maintain intensity and just be a bit stronger. Whereas these are just reaching convective temperatures. There's not much convergence in the lower levels. There is divergence aloft, but you just don't have a lot of air that's rising at a much faster rate and just allowing for some better storm coverage as you do up here where that surface trough is currently set up and situated. Looks like a new cell's pulsed up there on those outflow boundaries. Again, you've got a lot of converging air rising up into this outflow up here by Masterson, up there on Fritch Highway. Carson County is getting pummeled pretty hard with these things. You may start to see some flooding issues out there. Some of these are producing rain rates of 3 inches per hour. So lightning densities would suggest those two more potent storms are going to be the one. This one looks like it's losing its punch here south of White Deer, but this one is really pulsed up northeast of Pantex. There's a lot of source densities there, indicating a pretty big hail core. There's a hail core west of Able and north of Able, it looks like. You've got a big lightning density showing up right here on the map, and you've got a lot of lightning density starting to show up over here. And again, that's usually having to do with hydrometeors colliding with one another, and they just kind of send out these small discharges between protons and neutrons. Usually what that means is you've got a lot of rain and hail hitting each other, and that just allows a lot of those static discharges to occur. So when we talk about those source densities on the lightning mapping array network, that's, again, a lot of that stuff is just a lot of precipitation hitting one another and colliding, allowing for those discharges to occur. Doesn't necessarily mean it's a lightning strike, but it does mean that we probably have an updraft that's supporting some hydrometeor collisions up there, and it's usually a good telltale sign when those first start to populate on the array, that you can probably find out which updrafts are a little bit more stout, a little bit stronger, and that usually gives us about a 15-minute window before we see our first lightning strike. And so it's usually a good pre-warning tool to use in order to find new updrafts and new thunderstorm development. But we're starting to see, again, a lot of that stuff right in here around the Able area. So Panhandle, you guys are about to see another storm come rolling through with this one that's recently pulsed up. You can see we've got some rain starting to show up here on the northwest corner of Carson County too. There are some lightning densities there, just not to the degree that there are elsewhere. There's also some new lightning densities starting to show up right in here on the north side of town, northern Amarillo. So you're probably going to start seeing some storms develop along that outflow boundary here in North Amarillo within the next 15 to 20 minutes. So there's actually a lightning strike right there. Again, we just said that we saw some lightning densities or source densities showing up right in here on the northern half of town. And so we'll probably get a storm to develop on the north side of Amarillo within 15 minutes of now. And again, we've already got a lightning strike, so technically you've got a thunderstorm there. But it's just a updraft. There's the radar is so close here. I mean, we're looking 300 feet off the ground, above ground level. And so when you see things showing up here on radar, that's usually the rain shield getting to the surface. That's that downdraft that's almost about to hit the surface. So when it shows up, that storm's already starting to be mature and is already starting to put down some rainfall. So even though you don't see anything here, you may start to see some of that precipitation actually show up on the ground. You can see again starting to get a little bit darker in here, starting to show up a bit over here. And so we may start to see some rain fill in here in the next scan or two. And you can see again, there's quite a bit of lightning strikes out here northeast of town, northeast of Bushland rather, northwest of Amarillo. But we do have a destructive warning now up here in Potter County. That storm near Bowdoin. That one's warned for baseball-sized hail. So we've got a destructive severe thunderstorm warning that's just moved through Bowdoin. This is warned for baseball-sized hail and 70-mile-an-hour winds. This storm is moving towards Amarillo, and so this is going to be one that you'll need to watch out for. Again, these storms aren't maintaining their intensity for very long, so the hope is that this is going to fall apart before it gets to the loop. But they're between Boys Ranch and Amarillo, Boys Ranch Highway. That's where some of that very large hail is going to be getting to the surface right now on the west side of Potter County. So we got several lightning strikes there on the northwest side of town. So again, there are some lightning densities right in here. That's where you're starting to see that storm billow up. So this stuff's moving southeast. So again, I think a good chunk of Amarillo may inevitably see some of this rainfall. We're hoping that this destructive severe warning storm up here doesn't actually impact Amarillo. It falls below at least that destructive status before it gets into town. But it is currently warned for baseball-sized hail and winds up to 70 miles per hour. Starting to see a lot of development there north of Bushland too. You guys may start to see some rain start to make its way to the ground soon. It's pretty spotty out there, so certainly wouldn't guarantee it, but Panhandle, you guys are about to see this stuff make its way into town. This new cell that developed in Carson County not too long ago. Got another cell again going up there near Masterson. So a flood advisory was just issued for Carson County. That's going to be in effect until 9:45 p.m. You can see that here, indicated by this light green polygon. That's where we have seen between 1 and 2 inches of rainfall within the last couple hours. Heavy rain is continued heavy rain. It's expected to allow for some flooding to begin shortly, mainly for white deer and panhandle. And white deer, you guys really haven't seen much rainfall yet, but you're about to see this next round come through. I'd be more concerned about panhandle areas north of panhandle. That's where you already had that one storm pass through the area. So there's your downdraft that just showed up there on the radar. So again, we've got some heavy rain there up by Bishop Hills and up on the northwest side of Amarillo. So that's the rain core getting to the surface now. That's starting to be detected. So we got a new severe thunderstorm warning for Amarillo. You guys may have got that notification on your phone if you've got a weather app downloaded and turned on. It's going to be for 2-inch hail and for 70-mile-an-hour winds. Blake, is it okay if we do a cut in here? Yeah. Good Monday evening, everyone. We are breaking into programming to give you an update on some of these severe warning storms that are working their way through the area right now. We just got a new severe thunderstorm warning for Amarillo. They're in mainly the south side of Potter County. Again, this is going to be warned for 2-inch hail and 70-mile-per-hour winds. You can see we actually just had that new downdraft start to show up there just west of Cornwall Park up between us and Bishop Hills. The main core that we'll be mostly concerned about is the cell up here that's moving southeast. Again, it was producing up to baseball size still. It has come down. We expect it to continue to trend down as it moves into the city, but currently still warned for 2-inch hail. So if you're on the northwest side of town, could get a little spicy with that storm as it makes its way through the area. Again, it is warned until 7:45 p.m. and moving in a southeast direction at about 10 miles per hour. We've got a handful of other severe storms up here in Carson County too. Panhandle had some 2-inch hail from that first storm, which is still continuing to rumble there south of White Deer, but there's that secondary cell that's come through, which has actually sparked that aerial flood advisory, which will be in effect until 9:45 p.m. out there. Some of these storms are going to produce rain rates as high as 3 to 4 4 inches per hour. Inevitably, we may have some flooding issues, at least on an isolated level, where these main downdrafts come through the Amarillo area too. So that's something to be made known of and just be made aware of. Again, we are live on YouTube tracking these storms with you. So again, we're going to let you get back to programming for now. If you don't have our Storm Search 7 weather app, you can scan that QR code on the left-hand side of your screen. That's going to keep you weather aware with us here at Storm Search 7. Again, if you want to track this stuff live with us this evening, we are live on YouTube at ABC7 Amarillo. Really starting to see this stuff billow up out here too. A lot of these storms are starting to fill in over parts of Deaf Smith, Oldham, Potter, and Randall County. Again, we've got that one new downdraft that's set up shop there west of Wonderland Park. So again, there's that one cell that's moving northeast ahead of the outflow boundary, which just got going on the north side of town. I had a couple of lightning strikes here next to the station there at the interchange between I-40 and I-27. Again, these storms are warned. Again, the one that's mostly concerning is this one out here that's producing up to 2-inch hail. Again, it should be trending down for the hail size as that outflow boundary continues to push out ahead of it. We'll have to watch this one. I think again, this is a very new thunderstorm that just got going. Let's go ahead and zoom on out. We'll go ahead and run up to this one up here south of Miami. This one did miss Miami. It's continued to be warned for 1.5-inch hail and 60-mile-per-hour winds. But you do have another small cell up here that's got going too. Again, a bulk of this activity is really in Potter and Carson County right now. But we are starting to see additional development here in the southwest side of town, or southwest side of the Panhandle too. Get this camera turned around so we can see what it looks like here over town. Oh yeah. Nice downpour on the northwest side of Amarillo, north side. You can actually make out the First Bank Southwest building off in the distance. Let's go ahead and take a look at our Bushland cam. So here's downtown Amarillo. You can see again, there's a little bit of rain between the camera and it. Not heavy rain, but the really heavy stuff's up here on the north side of town, northwest up towards Bishop Hills. That's where, again, a lot of that activity is currently setting up shop. The one cell here is moving kind of east-northeast. We're also watching some stuff crash in from the south. So we'll probably see a good chunk of the city pick up a decent amount of rainfall from this. So if we take a look, it's warned until 7:15 p.m. for 2-inch hail and 70-mile-an-hour winds. I would expect this storm to slowly trend down in terms of the severe weather category. But again, we do currently have the outflow boundary making its way into the northwest side of town. It's about to come across Soncy there in I-40. Again, new cell that developed on the north side of town. The strong cell. This is the one that's really what sparked the warning, is where you've got some of those bigger hail cores still up there just northwest of the loop. They are moving south and east at 10 miles an hour, so they will be here within 15 minutes on the northwest loop. So if you live on the northwest side of town, expect some heavy rainfall, maybe some strong to damaging wind, potentially as high as 70 miles per hour, and then up to 2-inch hail possible. I expect the hail core to continue to trend down, though, as that outflow surges out ahead of this storm. You can see the outflow is actually down in here. It's going to be hitting close to the medical district pretty soon. So here's your medical district. Outflow boundary is actually right in here. It may have actually come across the medical district. No, that's the last scan. That was at 6:49. So there it goes. It's coming across right now. So here's your hail core. Hail core is right now on the west side of town. West side of Amarillo looks to catch the brunt of that. Hail's going to probably come through the west side of town, it looks like. So there's that new cell that's pulsed up north of Umbarger. That one's moving up into the southwest side of town. I don't know if it's going to get to the loop before the outflow crashes into it, but that'll probably just allow it to continue to unfold into a bigger thunderstorm. So we've got that new warning that's been trimmed down here for this little complex, almost like a congealed cluster over the central side of Carson County, north side of Panhandle. You're probably going to be dealing with some flooding issues here if you haven't started to see some of that already. That warning is for half-dollar size hail and 60-mile-per-hour winds. So there's that new warning. You can see that bigger box. Again, that's the one that's for this new cell north of Panhandle. That's the half-dollar size hail and winds to 60 miles per hour. Again, all these outflow boundaries are crashing through Amarillo right now. Again, it's allowed for a few cells to pulse up. You're starting to see some of this stuff collide right here over town. So Amarillo will probably continue to see storms build up around the city. We need to do another cut in, Blake. They're going to increase the baseball size hail. Did you catch that? Okay. So they're going to up this to baseball sized hail. This is going to be for that hail core northwest of Amarillo right now. This is not going to be for the whole city. You're going to probably get the warning on your phone. It's going to activate the WIA alert. So you're going to see your phone go off here in a second. But they're going to warn this storm for baseball sized hail. All right, let's go. Probably getting a warning on your phone here going off from the station. Again, that's for that destructive severe thunderstorm warning that just went off here in the Amarillo area. And that's actually going to be for baseball sized hail. This is the storm that's moving into town right now. So just keep this in mind. The hail core is on the northwest side of town, moving to the southeast. So again, where you're really going to see those higher impacts from the storm is going to be on the west side of Amarillo. Again, this is moving to the south and east. So western Amarillo, again, the hail core right here moving southeast. So this is where you're going to see some of those maximized impacts for that hail potential. Again, you can see some of that marginally severe hail even on the north side of town. Currently, just dealing with some heavy rain around Wonderland Park with that first little cell that's come through. The big storm, though, the spicy one, is right now just northwest of the loop coming into town right now. Again, you just got that destructive severe thunderstorm warning to it. Again, that's going to be in effect until 7:45 p.m. So you've probably seen your phone just activate that alert. That's because this storm's producing baseball-sized hail. That's going to be very destructive. That's going to continue to move in a southeast direction. So again, the west side of town, northwest Amarillo, looks to be catching the brunt of this one. You're going to see mostly just some heavy rain up there from Wonderland Park to the north. Again, if you're in kind of the south side or central side of Amarillo, we may even see some pretty large hail here at the station as this continues to move on into the region. So that's what we really wanted to let you guys know about. That one's warned for tennis ball to baseball sized hail, warned until 7:45 p.m. Again, that's going to be very destructive to roofs, and just make sure that you guys are staying away from the windows and the exterior walls of the home. This is also warned for 70-mile-an-hour winds. If any of those hailstones are driven by the strong winds, that could certainly blow out some windows too. So just make sure you're staying away from the glass and stuff on the outside of the home. I do want to show you what it looks like from our Bushland camera. Again, all you can see is really just some heavy rain out in the distance, but we have lost visual of the downtown skyline. So we are starting to see that rain really pick up here in the city and around the city. So just keep that in mind too. You're also probably going to start seeing some flooding issues. We're going to let you get back to programming for now. This is, again, a warm storm for baseball-sized hail. This is moving into the west side of Amarillo. It's going to be very destructive as it comes through. Just make sure you're staying away from those windows and the glass. Again, there's some strong winds with this. We certainly hate for someone to get injured just because of the storm. Again, just want to make sure you guys have that warning. We are live on YouTube, so if you want to continue to pay attention to this with us, we are on YouTube at ABC7 Amarillo, tracking these storms there. So very destructive storm moving into town right now. Baseball-sized hail possible. That's coming across. It's going to be right there by the medical district, and up there on the northwest side of town, it's going to be coming into the Amarillo Boulevard region from the West Loop 335 all the way up to the north side. So again, you're seeing a lot of that stuff that's going to come. It looks like it's going to come right through a good chunk of the city, unfortunately. So you guys are expected to see some pretty large hail with this. Not everyone's going to see that baseball-sized hail, but it's warned for up to baseball-sized hail. I think the worst of this is going to come right across through the medical district, Medi Park, some of those areas, Amarillo Botanical Gardens, areas north of that, up near Plum Creek. You guys will start to see some of the worst of this come through too. This is going to be moving to the south and east. It does almost look like it's got that hook effect, and so you're going to probably see some damaging winds with this as well. So you can see again, there's some of those winds coming into town right now. Again, this is really close to the surface. Doesn't look like it's as bad as it could be from the wind perspective. Really not picking up strong winds with it. But you could see some very large hail with this. We've seen a few of these other cells produce some pretty big hail up to the size of baseballs. And so that's why they went ahead and warned this storm. It's got that same look to it. You've got the outflow boundary surging out ahead of it. This is almost like an embedded supercell coming through Amarillo right now. You can see it's got that hook appendage to it. Again, we don't think this is going to be a tornado concern, but we do expect this to be a big hail concern as it comes through town. Still seeing some moderate to heavy rain up here around Wonderland Park and up on the north side near River Road. The hail is currently, I'm going to circle it on we're going to stop the lapse so you guys can see where it's at in the latest scan. But I would expect a lot of your big hail to be generally in this area right now. So you've got, this is your medical district here. You've got Plum Creek coming up through here and Tascosa Drive. Again, this whole northwest side of town is going to catch the brunt of this storm. You can actually kind of faintly make it out where the hail is falling on the sky cam. You can see it's getting, so here's your rain. You see this more opaque color here. That's a mixture of rain and hail. So there is hail getting to the ground with this storm coming into town. Make sure you guys are staying away from windows. Make sure that you're staying away from the exterior walls. The winds are up to 70 miles an hour. The hail does look like it's going to be the biggest issue with this one. You're also going to see some rain rates as high as 4 inches per hour. So they're going to issue a flash flood warning for Panhandle as well. So this supercell is cycling right now. The hail core seems to be falling out right now. We're going to watch this cell cycle over Amarillo. So we just had a flash flood warning issued for Carson County. There you go. You can see it pop up there. That one's going to be until 10 p.m. this evening. Up to 3 inches of rain has fallen around Panhandle. You can see kind of the small hook appendage here too. This could be an embedded supercell. This looks to be the strongest storm coming right through town at the moment. So some of that big hail is going to be falling right there near Plum Creek, Tractor Supply, all those areas that the Lowe's and Walmart up here. You guys are seeing some of that big hail come into town right now up in here. This is moving to the east southeast. So we may actually see this come right over the station here in the next 15 minutes. But this is a classic supercell look to it now. This thing does have some rotation in it. So here's your broad rotation. You've got winds heading towards the radar right here and away from the radar here. So we do have some rotation up in this storm. It's very broad and very weak, but that's usually one thing that helps hail growth with these storms. So you do have some rotation in here. Can we do another cut in, Blake? So we'll wait until we get our next scan, but this is currently warned for baseball-sized hail and 70 miles per hour. Wind gusts warned until 7:45 p.m. Let's take a whole look at the viewing area. You can see we've got a handful of other storms back building over here on the west side of town, or west side of the Panhandle, parts of eastern New Mexico, just some general thunderstorms out there, some heavier showers and storms down in Castro County. Again, we've got that supercell coming right through Amarillo, which is the most destructive storm right now and unfortunately impacting the most people. Yep. Good Monday evening, everyone. We're breaking back into programming just to give you guys a quick update on this supercell that's moving through Amarillo right now. Again, it's mainly a big hail producer, but it is currently going to cause some destruction. It is warned for baseball-sized hail up to 2.75 inches in diameter. You can see again, there's that hook appendage on this cell. Here's Amarillo Boulevard, and you can see there's the loop coming up on the west side of town. So you've got your medical district down here. You've got areas like Lowe's, Walmart, Tractor Supply up here around Plum Creek. That's where the core of this storm is right now. Anywhere from there and northwest is where you're probably dealing with some of those very large hailstones at this point in time. This storm is moving south and east. Inevitably, it may actually come through the heart of the city. We may actually see some of that big hail come through over our heads as well here in the next 10 to 15 minutes. You can see there's our next scan. You can see definitely still has that supercell classic hook look to it. It is not a tornado concern. It is a big hail concern, but we are expecting this to be destructive hail up to baseball size. It's going to shatter windows of vehicles. Again, if we've got some of the strong damaging winds with it, that could certainly blow out some windows on the side of a home, side of apartment duplexes. So just make sure you're staying away from the glass on the outside of your residence. So just make sure that you're kind of in that interior room, almost like you're treating it as if there was a tornado, just because we don't want that glass to get into your face and your skin and things like that. This is a pretty destructive storm moving through the city right now. Again, the northwest side of town currently dealing with the brunt of this up to baseball size hail and 70-mile-per-hour winds. Again, this is just a hail concern for right now. Again, this does not look like it's got very tight circulation in it, and so that's why it is just a big hail issue. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. We've got another storm that is severe warned there just to the north of Canyon. This one's going to be approaching southwest Amarillo, moving to the north and east. It's inevitably going to crash into this outflow boundary, and that's going to lead to probably some enhancement in the updraft. It's going to probably strengthen as it moves into town, but currently the strongest cell is moving through the west side of Amarillo as we speak. We'll go ahead and take a quick view of the entire viewing area just to show you we've got a handful of other storms starting to pulse up around the region. Here's that flash flood warning in effect for Carson County, mainly around Panhandle, where they've seen as much as 3 inches of rain. We've got some general thunderstorms out there on the southwest side of the Panhandle, back into eastern New Mexico. But the worst of this does look like it's coming through the Yellow City right now. We're going to get you back to programming for the moment. We're live on YouTube tracking these storms, so if you want to make sure that you're staying weather aware for the next hour or two as that storm rolls through, you can follow us on ABC7 Amarillo on YouTube, where we are live tracking these storms. Okay. So this storm is going to come right through downtown Amarillo, it looks like. So we're getting reports of golf ball sized hail up at the hospital district right now. So right in here, they're getting some golf ball sized hail. They're going to lower the hail size to 2 inches, which is still hen egg, which is very, very large. Biggest concern for the storm is going to be the hail size. It's going to be up to 2 inches in diameter. They're going to let the destructive tag go. You can see that new warning here shaded in yellow. You can see they've kind of trimmed it a bit, but they are dealing with, there was observed reports of golf ball sized hail at the medical district. The worst of this stuff is just west of town, just west of downtown Amarillo. So this thing is currently producing the largest hail between, it's right there on the boulevard on the northwest side of town. Up to baseball sized hail was reported initially. It's been downgraded to lime sized hail, which is going to be 2 inches in diameter. So it's still going to cause some considerable amounts of damage. Just dealing with some very heavy rain, more than likely up on the north side of town. The hail core appears to still be over here on the west side. I do think that we'll probably see some of that hail get to KVII at this point, moving in the southeast direction. So if you're around downtown Amarillo, you've got a few minutes again to seek shelter from this. You don't want to be caught outside with this supercell thunderstorm. It's producing some pretty large hail. Golf balls were observed at the hospital area. at the hospital district. Plains and Bell also producing some pretty large hail. We are right in the notch of this storm right here in the Amarillo at KVII. Again, there's going to be some big hail here just to the southwest of us. I mean, there's a huge hail core in this thing at this point. It's probably producing a lot of like quarter to golf ball sized hail, but there could be hail up to the size of limes. So this whole thing is just kind of surging to the southeast. So looks like the biggest hail is going to be just to the southwest of the station. Was it raining yet out there? A little bit. We're in the notch right now. It's probably raining and hailing at your parents' house. So they've put out a new warning. I'll go ahead and look at it real quick. These storms out here near Will Laredo, that one's for $half sized hail and 60-mile-an-hour winds. Got another little cell up here too. Going to produce some pretty strong winds and up to $half sized hail. Flash flood warning. Again, if you're in Panhandle, there is that flash flood warning. You've had over 3 inches of rain there. That one's also producing some pretty large hail up to ping pong size and 60-mile-per-hour winds. I will say that the Skycam from Bushland, looking at it, I mean, you can still see some of this opaque stuff, which is probably your hail falling to the ground. And you can really see a lot of it there still on the northwest side of town. Up in here, there's not so much of it in the rear flank of the storm anymore, but there's just a lot of it up here, probably still around Plum Creek and the medical district. Starting to rain there in Bushland. Starting to rain here at the station, I think. Yeah, it's definitely raining. There was a piece of hail that just hit the roof. So the hail core, where you could be dealing with some golf ball to lime size hail, appears to be at the junction between I-40 and I-27, and then southwest. So we'll go ahead and zoom in here. You can see Washington Street in here, Georgia Street. You've got 58th Avenue. Sounds like it's 95% rain right now here at the station. But again, we're up here away from the hail core. We may catch some of it up here as it comes through. Let me check the rain rate real quick. So we've just picked up 1/10 of an inch of rain in, I think, 2 minutes. It's coming down very fast. So they're going to expire that severe thunderstorm warning in Gray, Wheeler, and Roberts County, that one south of Miami. Got a big supercell coming through Amarillo right now, producing some very big hail. The big hail is going to be here southwest of the interchange between I-27 and I-40. So you've probably got some pretty big hail right in here. That kind of extends up to the northwest too. it gets smaller. You're probably going to see a lot of hail up here, but the hail size won't be as large because it's going to be wrapped in and kind of embedded in a lot of that heavier rainfall. You see most of your huge stones in a supercell right here in the rear flank. This is, again, you can see it looks like there's between, right there on 46th Avenue is where you're seeing some of that very heavy rain and probably some bigger hail just to the east of Washington Street. So you've got Mirror, Roberts, Wilson, Williams, some of these small residential areas. Rain rate's 2 inches an hour here at the station right now, and we're not even in the heaviest stuff. It does sound like it's 99% rain though. We'll see what this kind of entails and brings us. There was an MPing report of some golf ball sized hail just north of Canyon on this storm here. Let's put a quick lapse on this. It's 30 minutes. You can just see again, this supercell has just come right through the heart of Amarillo. Tascosa Country Club seeing a lot of hail right now. So the golf ball sized hail was right up in here. So we did had some golf ball sized hail here. So this storm over here in Armstrong County, or moving into Armstrong County, I should say, it's still in Carson County, is warned for golf ball sized hail and winds up to 60 miles per hour. Again, you could still see up to golf ball sized hail moving through the city right now. Tascosa Country Club just had some golf ball sized hail. If you guys know where that's up, it's the northwest side of town. It's up in here. Potter and Randall County have got a flood advisory now. Rain rate down to 1.1 inches per hour. We have picked up a little over a quarter inch of rain here in the last 15 minutes. Seeing a rain rate fluctuate between 1 and 2.5 inches per hour, which is still going to cause some flooding issues here in town. Some 1-inch hail was reported north of Canyon. And that was at 7:14, so that was 6 minutes ago. So this one's producing some quarter-sized hail down here still. It's just coming across I-27. Rain rate's really picked up here at the station. It's up to 2 to 3 inches per hour. So probably some hail really starting to flare up around Farmers Avenue between them and 58th Avenue. This is going to be making its way through the southeast loop here in the next 15 minutes. If you're on FM 1151, southeast of Amarillo, kind of near the intersection between it and 1258, the storm's heading in y'all's direction. You'll want to make sure that you're staying away from the windows on the outside of the home. We've seen a lot of golf ball reports for hail with this storm. Looks like a lot of that's going to be in the core of this thing, which is in the southeast side of Amarillo right now. So this thing's starting to lose its supercell look. It's starting, again, that outflow is kind of staying way out ahead of it, so that's some good news there. It's going to limit the hail size. Starting to hear some small hailstones hitting the top of the station. Picked up 4/10 of an inch of rain here in Amarillo at KVII. Rain rate still seems to be floating around that 1.5 inch of rain per hour. They're going to increase to baseball size on this storm in southeast Amarillo. So there's that new destructive severe thunderstorm warning that should come out here in just a second. They just issued it. There it is. So that's going to be, you're probably going to get another alert on your phone. So it's pretty instantaneous when they issue it. Coming in on the other phone. Gusts of 70 miles an hour are going to be possible. The baseball-sized hail is going to be in that new core that you see that's flared up over the southeast side of town. From FM 1541 down Farmers Avenue all the way down 58th Avenue towards the southeast loop is where you're going to have the worst hail with this storm. This is moving south and east. So, and just keep in mind, this is just the first round of storms. Like we very well could have another round of storms later this evening. I do think those may be a little further southwest. But all this stuff you see out here starting to form is that next round of rain, which is likely to impact most of eastern New Mexico. There was a power line pole blown over near Neighbors Regional Hospital. Rain rates up to 3 inches an hour here at the station. We're on the backside of the storm here at KVII. That hail course appears to be kind of centered right there just north of the southeast loop between you guys and 58th Avenue. This is where you're going to be seeing those really larger hailstones, probably golf ball to lime size for the most part, but it's warmed up to baseballs. So this thing cycled and then flared back up. You can see here. It's lost its supercell look, but still got a very, very potent hail core in there. They're going to go to tennis ball sized hail on this storm here north of Claude, moving southeast at 10 miles per hour. Rain rates over 3 inches an hour here at the station. Rain rate is approaching 4 inches per hour. It is raining cats and dogs, 3 to 4 inches of rain per hour here in downtown Amarillo. Again, that hail core really just kind of disappeared there in that last scan, but probably seeing some very heavy rain. We've picked up 7/10 of an inch of rain so far. So they're going to issue a severe warning storm for this cell here over by Bushland. It's going to be for golf balls and 60-mile-per-hour winds. Looks like that hail core is going to be south of the interstate. So there's that hail core. That's the one for golf balls and 60-mile-an-hour winds. That one's going to be warned until 8:30 p.m. southwest of Bushland. Again, downtown Bushland probably will not see, like if you're right there on the interstate in Bushland, probably not going to see some big hail, if any. A lot of that stuff's going to be south of you guys, south of the interstate, and really into Randall County. The northwest corner of Randall County is where it's going to be. Getting pretty outflow dominant. I would not expect these storms to maintain their severe destructive nature for very long. I think we've been pretty fortunate here in Amarillo. We've only seen up to golf ball sized hail reported. Got a few tree limbs that have been snapped around town. I saw one photo of a power line pole that was bent over near Regional Plains Hospital, or Neighbors Regional Hospital, sorry. They're on Coulter. We've had right at 7/10 of an inch of rain here at the station. So we're getting kind of like right there in that flood advisory territory. The storm's pretty outflow dominant. Do not expect it to hang around in its severe status for, or at least the destructive status, for very long. They're probably going to downgrade this to hail a little bit smaller. This is going to be moving into Palo Canyon State Park momentarily. If you know anyone that lives down there or is camping down there, they can expect some severe storm capabilities. Up to ping pong size hail southwest of Lake Tanglewood was just reported 30 seconds ago. They're going to decrease the hail size in Amarillo. It's going to fall out of destructive storm category. They're going to downgrade it to golf balls. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of these other storms. Looks like we've got one up there near Des Moines that's coming down from Union County. I do want to look at this one over by Clovis. So we'll take a look at it from radar first. You can see we've got really a lot of rain setting up shop in Roosevelt County. Got a pretty nice double rainbow in Bushland right now. That's pretty cool. But just northeast of Portales between y'all and Clovis, that's where you're seeing some very heavy rainfall. This is what it looks like from the sky cam down there at that storm. This is non-severe, just producing some really heavy rainfall out there. You can see some dust getting kicked up, so maybe some gusty winds out of those, but currently not warned at this point in time. Just kidding. They just issued a warning here. So they just issued that as we said it wasn't warned 30 seconds ago. It's going to be warned for 1-inch hail and 60-mile-an-hour winds, moving east at 15 miles per hour. So that's the newest severe thunderstorm warning that we have. It's just to encompass some of these stronger cells on the north side of Roosevelt County, really south of Clovis. There's a lot of crashing boundaries out here. I mean, you could just look at all of these boundaries colliding. You're probably going to get some additional development here as well around Clovis. Even though these first few cells may miss you, I would expect some additional development where all these winds are just converging together over Curry County. We're going to cancel this warning here in Duff Smith County. This one, still going to go tennis balls for this storm over in Armstrong and Carson County, north of Claude. This one's still warned for 2.5-inch hail and 70-mile-an-hour winds until 8:15 p.m. So for another 30-40 minutes or so. Got a couple of other newer cells trying to go up there in Roberts County. Got a small weak shower north of Canadian that's recently developed. Still looks like the bulk of our lightning densities are in East Amarillo with this storm here. This one's got a lot of lightning density, so it's probably got a hail core aloft. This one has a lot of lightning densities, so this is our strongest cell right now for static discharge densities. And we've got a few cores going up out here on the west side of Amarillo, some newer ones trying to develop. So newest update. So they probably won't issue a watch for tonight. They do expect some gradual growth in storm coverage as these continue on a southeast journey. We could still see some continued severe weather threats for the next few hours with this stuff as it continues south and east. But um, the flow aloft, or the flow at the surface, excuse me, is relatively weak, and so they don't expect these storms to persist in terms of their long-lived severe weather capability. Should be pretty short-lived. We just have these two really weak supercells that have come through Potter and Carson County. And you can see this one's kind of turning left, moving more due east now. So this one's really lost its rotation aloft. So really just dealing with this one right here. But the outflow boundary is like 5-10 miles out ahead of the storm. So it probably won't persist from a tennis ball size hail standpoint for much longer. I would expect it to probably gradually weaken. May need to watch some of these showers out here around Bushland. This one's probably going to pass in between Canyon and Amarillo, southwest Amarillo, right there around the loop. And then we've got some better coverage of storms that will likely continue to develop out here in New Mexico, specifically around Curry and Roosevelt County. If you're south, I would imagine a lot of this is going to stay south of Tucumcari and south of the interstate. So they're going to downgrade this warning here for the supercell that just came through Amarillo to quarter size tail. Let's go ahead and jump down to Cannon Air Force Base's radar. You can see there's just some hit and miss showers and weaker thunderstorms out here in South Quay County, northern Roosevelt County. Really got a decent cluster out here in Roosevelt County from Elida up towards Portales and Melrose. These are producing some very heavy rainfall. So this is what it looks like from out there. You can see we've got a lot of dust being kicked up. Let's see if we can't get getting some pretty strong winds there in Clovis right now. Looks like we may have a thunderstorm-driven dust storm coming out of New Mexico. This is what they would call a haboob. It's just a lot of those outflow dominant winds from some of these stronger storms kicking up a lot of dust out there. It's a pretty big wreck there on I-40, it looks like, underneath the Washington Street Bridge along I-40. Looks like some FedEx truck rear-ended another semi due to the floodwaters, not allowing anyone to pass through. I would imagine that's weather related. You see there's that heavy rain and probably some hail out there with that storm. It's 1 quarter size hail in the northwest, corner of Randall County. You see the outflow winds have reached Clovis. That's why you guys are seeing all that dust come through there. Got some more outflows colliding. They're going to probably meet in the middle of Curry County. That's where you're going to see probably some new storms try to develop out there. This stuff should congeal in the southwest side of our viewing area into a much bigger complex. Got a new storm there in Quay County that is severe warned north of Ragland, rather west northwest of Ragland. So that one in Quay County is going to be warned for 1-inch hail and 60-mile-per-hour winds as well. A lot of these are going to be marginally severe storms. We did have that pretty rough storm that came through Amarillo, produced. We only heard up to golf ball size hail on the reports, so it looks like it was below what it was warned for. So that's certainly, we'd love it to be that way than the other way around. Looks like a lot of this stuff's going to favor eastern New Mexico at this point and southwest Texas Panhandle. So areas like Tulia, Silverton, Clarendon, you can see there's a crashing outflow boundary heading y'all's direction. Expecting this to probably set off a few more storms. We've got, again, that one strong cell there south of Bushland coming. It's going to probably come right in between. It's probably going to come mostly through Canyon, but in between the South Loop and Canyon is what's going to see most of that heavier rainfall there. Got a few other cells pulsing up out here in Oldham and Deaf Smith County. This one's got a pretty good core in it just to the north of Umbarger. You can really see this stuff starting to fill in over eastern New Mexico. Should be some good moisture for them. You see this cell's really pulsed up there west of Clovis. And we're seeing a lot of blue skies up in Des Moines. Maybe a rogue thunderstorm or two out there, but generally quieter conditions in the northwest panhandle, which was expected today. You guys here, we can show you the hail core falling south of Bushland right now. So here's your rain and hail falling. You can see it's a little bit more opaque, kind of got a wider hue to it rather than just gray or that dark gray. That just usually is a good indicator that there's probably some hail in there too that's getting to the ground level. Fortunately, I have not heard of any hail reports bigger than 2 inches today. Here in Amarillo, we had a couple of reports of golf ball sized hail. There's a hail core falling out from underneath this thunderstorm south of Bushland. This is that storm we're looking at right here. That's where you're seeing some of that hail. Most of these storms are a little bit more tampered now at this rate. We do have a handful of severe warning storms. There's one there in Portales up in Roosevelt County. Got that other cell very isolated over in Quay County. That one probably won't maintain severe status for very long. And then we've got that small group over here. They're going to let this warning expire, I think, the destructive one. And it's technically not in effect anymore. So got a new warning here for Armstrong and Donley County. That storm's moving towards Clarendon right down the highway. They're going to warn that one for golf ball sized hail and 60-mile-per-hour winds. Had a 62-mile-an-hour wind gust in Goodnight. A lot of these storms are going to be marginally severe. It looks like the strongest one is moving into Donley County as we speak. That one's going to be for golf ball size tailwind winds up to 60 miles per hour. They're going to take the warnings out of Amarillo. They're going to issue a new one down here for Paladuro Canyon, or they're going to trim it anyway. New severe warning coming for Paladuro Canyon for half-dollar size tail and 60-mile-an-hour winds. We'll see if Amarillo cashes in on any more rainfall tonight. I really think a lot of this activity is going to be southwest of us. You can see it starting to fill in out here pretty slowly, but it is filling in. We've got a few cells that are trying to pulse up out here in Randall and Oldham County. They're not severe, but you will probably see a couple of brief heavy downpours. A lot of this should be southwest of us and continue in a southeast journey. Good nights just gusted to 66 miles per hour for their wind gust down here, mainly north of the highway, north of 287. This storm is paralleling 287, so areas like Howardwick, you guys will inevitably end up seeing some of this rainfall from this storm. It's not going to fill Lake Meredith up. It's going to wet the ground, maybe a little bit of water running off, but would not expect it to be a whole lot. You know, maybe a half inch to an inch of rain. They've lowered the hail size to 1 inch in diameter, and they're keeping the winds 60 for that storm down there. Again, general thunderstorm development continues to grow up scale out here in the southwest panhandle and then back into eastern New Mexico. Let's take a look from that different radar so you can get a lower scan. Getting a boundary collision in central Curry County. I would not be shocked to see more development out here in the very near future. Seeing a lot of storms flare up in the northwest corner of Roosevelt County. They've got a small, very small aerial flood advisory for the town of Portales, where you guys have seen some pretty heavy rainfall over the last hour. This stuff should fill in as we get into this evening. I would expect it to. And this is probably what we're dealing with or seeing out here, is this stuff is going to fill into a bigger complex. And it will likely impact the South Panhandle. There's a few outlier models that have it as far north as I-40 tonight, so that's, you know, maybe not out of the realm of possibilities for Amarillo to get another round today. I do think we're probably done for the rain once this stuff kind of moves through. We are seeing a few cells pulse up. It may not be widespread, maybe more spotty up here. So if you guys are just now tuned in, storms are starting to lose their intensity. We still have a few of them that are severe warned for um, up to quarter-sized hail and winds to 60 miles per hour. But really seeing a lot of these lose their punch. We've got this one severe warned storm in effect until 7:15, so we'll see that one probably will be allowed to expire, and then we'll end up seeing this one probably allowed to expire here in 20 minutes over in Quay County. They have issued a special weather statement for this group of storms out here coming across Fort Sumner. This for 55 mile per hour wind gusts and 50 mile per hour wind gusts and 60 and nickel-sized hail. So looking at the lightning mapping array, it does look like that core. There's a couple of decent cores, still pretty close to the Amarillo area, which just would indicate that there's probably some hail colliding aloft with one another. Kind of pinpoint some of these areas on the lightning map array. So there's a pretty good group of densities right in here. There's another smaller group of densities in here. It looks like there was a pretty good chunk of densities moving through the state park there in Paladuro Canyon. And then this one also had a lot of source densities, as well as this one north of Claude. This one's moving east, and then the rest of these are moving kind of in an east-southeast direction. The rest of this stuff doesn't look that impressive. I mean, there's some decent densities down in here too, but I would suggest a lot of these are probably nickel to dime size hail. I mean, there's a really good group of densities right in here. This storm's likely severe still. Got a lot of collisions in there, and then these two here pushing close to severe limits. We got a bunch of new densities showing up right in here. Can't see it on radar yet, but you'll probably see a new cell. It's probably this one that's moving east. I'll let you guys kind of watch the radar for a minute. I'll be back in a few. Take a quick break. We'll be back here in I think probably 3 or 4 minutes. All right, we'll give you another quick update, you guys. We got a handful of severe warning storms. Got a new warning down there for Canyon. You guys will see that one until 9:15 p.m. That one's warned for half-dollar size tail and 60-mile-per-hour winds. We also have a new warning down in Castro and Swisher County. That one's going to be for 1-inch hail and 60-mile-per-hour winds. Warned until 9 p.m. this evening. Moving over the Hart area, continuing down the highway towards Grisham and Edmondson. That one's moving. That one will quickly move out of our viewing area. But we do have a few other storms just kind of pulsing up out here. Again, this stuff's really started to kind of flare up recently. Let's see what the lightning mapping array. I mean, there's not crazy. This one has quite a bit of source densities being detected. There's really three big cores. There's this one here, just south of Wildorado and Bushland. This one moving into Canyon, and then this little storm here over the state park there in Paladuro Canyon. The rest of these are likely right at or below severe limits from lightning source densities. The updrafts don't seem to be that intense in them. All right, we are back. We've got a couple of new severe warning storms. Since we last spoke, we'll kind of run through this real quick and then get you back to just the radar. But we do have a couple of marginally severe warned storms. This one here in Deaf Smith County, that's a pretty new one that just got warned here for 1 inch hail and 60-mile-per-hour winds. We also have another new one down in Palmer County, which just got issued. That one for half-dollar sized hail and 60-mile-per-hour winds. That's just due to that storm having a little bit more instability to work with. Generally speaking, we expect this cluster to form a bigger complex, really from eastern New Mexico all the way over into the south central panhandle, and that may even extend into parts of Oklahoma. If we guys showed you in the Barron computer model from earlier this evening, it showed a big complex coming through. It actually handled this stuff very well. Maybe not so much this stuff up here, but it does have this big group where we've had a lot of the lift and dynamics to set up shop for a pretty good setup for a big MCS or big linear complex coming through the South Plains. Much needed moisture for some, others probably wishing they could have some drier weather. You've already had over 1 inch of rain in Tulia from the last 24 hours and some other areas here in the South Panhandle. I think it was probably a welcome sight in Amarillo aside from probably the hail that we had, but we did have a pretty dry stretch across most of the city for the last 10 days, picking up, a couple of spots picked up 1 inch or 2 of rain, but most of us did not. But probably some mixed feelings about the rainfall. Some of us probably want it, some of us don't, but usually it's feast or famine here in the high plains. It's either all or none, and more often than not, it's none. So I think we'll take the rain when we can get it. Though I think some of the ag producers out there, especially in the row crop sections, will probably wish that we had some drier weather for the cotton, and maybe some of the more mature corn probably doesn't need any of this anymore to finish maturing out and reaching its full stage maturity rate. But for the grasses, it's a good thing. Now, that may bite us in the rear next spring whenever we have our wildfire season come to a peak. We've had a lot of rain. It's been a lot of consistent rain too. And so the grasses have really grown pretty readily across the south central panhandle in the Canadian River Valley. We've had anywhere from 15 to about 25 inches of rain this year, and our average is anywhere from 17 to about 22. So we're already at our annual rainfall average in a lot of these areas, and we still have 4.5 months to go before the year comes to a close. Granted, we are moving into our drier months, or at least once we get out of August. We usually average about 3 inches a month in August, and then about 2 in September, about 1 inch and some change in October, and then we kind of really get into a dry spell as we get into the winter months. From a climatological standpoint, we can still get some big systems, but it's just we're usually so dry, usually lack the moisture, and so that's one of the big ingredients you need for precipitation is the moisture, and usually we have a lot of that washed out in the winter months. So we'll take the moisture while we can get it. But that's all we've got new. Again, we've got some additional development up here, some really pulsy showers. These should stay below severe limits up here. They're already in a worked over environment. But don't be shocked if you do get maybe another round of some moderate rainfall in some of these areas that have already seen some rain. Canadian, you guys have a handful of storms moving in from the northwest, so hopefully you guys will get a little bit of shower activity over the next hour. This stuff should line out, though, south of the interstate all the way into New Mexico and then track to the south and east. So a lot of this stuff should be making its way out of the region here as we get into the late evening hours. All right, guys, sorry about that. They were utilizing the studio, but we're back. We've got a handful of marginally severe storms, a few new ones since we last spoke to you about 15 minutes ago. We've got, again, this new cell or cluster of cells that got a severe thunderstorm warning out there in the southeast panhandle. So that's going to encompass portions of Hall, Childress, and Cottle County, mainly for what's going to be the north side of Cottle County and eventually probably southern Childress County. That one is warned for 1-inch hail and 60-mile-per-hour winds. The one over here in Castro and Swisher County, which has been slowly trimmed. Really, strongest cores, they're just to the southwest of Hart, Texas. They've got some quarter-sized hail probably falling just to the southwest of the highway. Then we also have another one in Palmer County. All of these are like 1-inch hail, 60-mile-an-hour winds for the most part. There's very few of them that aren't. Actually, I don't think there's any more that are above quarter-sized hail. So these are marginally severe storms. Probably going to dent your roof of your vehicle, things like that. Some winds could cause some minor problems, some broken tree limbs, things of that nature. We had a 7,207 inch of rain here in downtown Amarillo at the station so far. We may not be done. You can see we've got a few other showers trying to pulse up out here. Some of this is actually false echoes. These are, you're getting a very stable air mass now, and so what you're getting is the bending of that radar beam, and you're actually picking up that wind farm out there north of Vega with that beam being bent down towards the surface. And sometimes you can actually see trains and portions of the vehicles on the Highway 60 corridor coming up too whenever we get that radar beam to be bent downward. So again, not all of this is real echoes. There are a few real storms. Again, there's one right in here, another small one here. We've got a few showers kind of rolling through this, but overall, there's not a whole lot of storm activity down the interstate. Don't expect to be running through a bunch of very heavy rainfall. It's just, I think, 3 showers there that are actually on the interstate. We do have that newer severe warning storm up here in mostly Roberts County. It does encompass the south side of Ochiltree and the far west side of Hemphill County. That one is for 1-inch hail and 60-mile-per-hour winds too. But a lot of this stuff's expected to congeal into a big linear line. We probably have our new computer model that's run through. You can probably take a look at this real quick. That was a pretty sunset, by the way, over in Des Moines, New Mexico. So this model actually not doing as good of a job. Let's go ahead and jump back over to the 12Z run. That one actually did a very good job. Of depicting where these storms were expected to fire and where they're expected to go. So you can see again, just kind of becoming more of a linear complex. I don't think it's going to be a completely linear complex by the time it gets out of the area, but I think there's going to be a large chunk of the South Panhandle that sees rainfall tonight. If you get missed, you're probably one of the few down there in that southern 2 rows of counties. As we get into the 2 a.m. time frame, we'll still probably have some storms around the region, but we hope that they will be below severe limits at that point. And again, a lot of these are just marginally severe right now. Once we kind of utilize all that instability and that sun's going down, we're losing our daytime heating, the instability is going to start to wane, and it's going to start falling down below probably enough to support severe weather. We'll probably start seeing just general thunderstorm activity tonight, which will produce some locally heavy rainfall. We'll still see some rain rates around 1 to 3 inches per hour, which will eventually lead to our bigger issue or more widespread problem of that nuisance flooding. We've had a couple of flood advisories and some flash flood warnings and things like that out there. As we move into Tuesday, we'll have probably some remnant low, what we call usually a mesoscale convective vortex. That's just a small scale feature, low pressure feature, usually induced by thunderstorm activity. Again, a lot of your hurricanes are considered mesoscale lows. They're not big synoptic troughs like we get here in the mid latitudes. They're a little bit smaller of a feature. That's basically how one would start. You've had enough rain, enough moisture that you get a little bit of some organized convection that allows for just a regional level of low pressure. And so that's what you usually get in the wake of some of these thunderstorms is this, they turn into an MCS, then they can turn into an MCV, a mesoscale convective vortex or a mesoscale convective complex. So that's what we're probably going to be dealing with through the overnight hours tonight, heading into Tuesday morning. Now, as we go into Wednesday, we will have a stalled boundary around the region. I don't think it's going to change our temperatures a whole lot. I just think that we'll probably see some winds converging there in the northern panhandles. I know the model's not picking up on it well, but we'll probably see temperatures around normal moving into your Wednesday time frame, maybe a touch below average. Our normal high is starting to trend down. It's 92 right now for the average high temperature this time of the year. And as we get into the tail end of the week, we'll show you this here in a second, where we'll likely see this ridge kind of centered over the panhandles on Thursday. It's going to be a very small ridge, very weak. It's not very bright in terms of the color contrast or color palette. So it's going to probably get hot on Thursday, but we won't be talking about like record heat or anything of that nature. I don't even know if we'll get into the hundreds, but we will probably be in the upper 90s for your daytime highs for Thursday, just due to this ridge being centered over the area. Do take note, though, of this trough out here in the west side of the country. That could lead to some southwest flow aloft out here, and that could actually help induce some monsoonal moisture to be pulled into the Panhandles region or the eastern side of New Mexico. It really will hinge on where the trough is inevitably set up and where this ridge is going to be stacked on the southeast portion of the country by Sunday and Monday of next week. But I wouldn't be shocked if we see some low end pops come back into play by Saturday, Sunday, and probably again on Monday and Tuesday. I just don't know if they're going to be widespread. There's not a whole lot of lift aloft from a synoptic standpoint out here. We may get some shortwave troughs to come through. Those may be what we have to bank on to see some of those isolated to scattered thunderstorms early next week. I don't think it's going to be widespread, though, for our rainfall in that regard. Let's go ahead and jump back over to your analysis tab, because this, again, what we're really just kind of focused on right now. We do have a new severe thunderstorm warning up there in Oldham County that did cover a good chunk of the I-40 corridor. We've got just this one cell right here that's come through Boys Ranch. They're going to warn that one for 60-mile-an-hour winds and 1-inch hail. Seems to be taking better advantage of the wind shear. Did have a couple of storms out here, but really haven't seen the temperature washed out too much out there. So there still is a fair bit of instability. It's nice and cool here in Amarillo, though. 66 degrees, 68 degrees, 67 degrees. It's actually 63 in Palo Canyon State Park. A little cool this evening if you're out there camping. So we'll just kind of go around the horn. We've got no more severe warning storms out here in New Mexico. These storms are really below severe limits. We do have the flash flood warning for Portales, where they've had a couple inches of rain today. You can still see there are a few more showers coming into town too. So you're not really done with it either. So you may start to see a reflare up of some low-lying areas inundated with some water. Starting to see some of those showers and storms really get going there in Clovis, around Clovis, and mainly in central Curry County. Kind of figured they would flare up again at some point, and it looks like they were a little delayed, but finally getting some more storms to pop up there, pulse up there. Looks like we got a new cell that's just pulsed up there over the west side of town too, here in Amarillo. Right there. Tiny little storm. Not a very big one at all, but some sporadic, moderate to heavy rain still possible tonight. Starting to see some rain in Bushland again, too. That's due to this little shower here. All of these storms that are severe warned are warned for 1 inch hail and 60-mile-per-hour winds. So it's not like you're going to be dealing with some significant severe weather. We did have that one supercell come through Amarillo, produced up to golf ball sized hail, which is very very large. But it was kind of a narrow corridor. Obviously, the whole city isn't going to be in the hail core of that storm. Again, the city is just way too big for that. Those hail cores usually are only about 1 to 2 miles wide. So they do cause extensive damage, but still not to the point where it's going to impact an entire city of this magnitude and this size. But we did have up to golf ball sized hail from basically the medical district, north of the medical district, all the way up towards Tascosa Country Club. And then we had another core pulse up there on the southeast side of town that had some pretty big hail there between 58th and really down 58th Avenue, running west to east in southeast Amarillo, there north of the loop, north of southeast loop, 335. Got a small little group of storms up here. Won't forget about you guys up in Canadian. We do have this storm up here in northern Roberts County. This one's tracking southeast, more towards Miami and Laura. We'll see how far it gets before it falls below severe limits. There's just not as much instability out here, but obviously they haven't had much rainfall, so kind of an untapped environment. The flash flood warning in Carson County is going to expire at 10 p.m. pending they don't see any more storms develop. We'll see if we get anything to line out up here in the Canadian River Valley. We do have a few showers trying to pulse up out here. Still some pretty heavy rain there around Umbarger, Don, Canyon, down towards the state park. A lot of this stuff is still pushing severe limits of like 1 inch hail, maybe a little bit bigger than that. The strongest storm still appears to be this one in the southwest side of Armstrong County. There's a lot of source densities. When we talk about source densities, we're talking about static discharges. So the lightning mapping array, what it's detecting is just protons and electrons colliding together. And a lot of that happens when you get hydrometeors colliding with one another. Some of them are positively charged, others negatively charged. When you get a lot of them colliding in an updraft, hail, big raindrops, things like that, you start to get these static discharges. And we've got a really good source density group down here in southwest Armstrong County. So this is probably our strongest storm in the entire viewing area. So right there coming into Wayside in Vigo Park, you guys may end up starting to see some very heavy rain. There could be some pockets of some hail that could be pushing close to quarter size out there. Got another pretty good group of source density south of Hart too. Starting to see stuff line out up here. This may be our second round of storms trying to billow up from Quay and Curry County northeast up through Oldham and Deaf Smith County and parts of Potter County. We'll see if it can fill all the way in before it comes through the city. We're seeing some light rain over in Bushland right now. This little shower here. It's coming down the highway. But just general shower and thunderstorm activity there. Got a pretty good group of cells there. Northern Cottle County, they had a little over a quarter inch from this cell here on the southeast side of Childress, and you've guys got more coming. Sometimes rain's really hard to come by for the southeast panhandle this time of the year because you guys usually we're not in northwest flow, so that's again the kind of the difference in why we're seeing some rainfall this far to the southeast in the viewing area. Summertime pattern usually is northwest flow for us. We've got a ridge to build in the desert southwest, and that can lead to us having storms fire off of the Sangre de Cristos, and then they kind of get pushed into the panhandle before they start falling apart as we lose that daytime heating. So areas like Childress and Paducah, normally you guys will see a lot of your precipitation in the fall and in the spring months, whereas up here on the northwest side of the area. Usually it's summer is when they get most of the rainfall up there. You guys will get just kind of periodic shots down here. It can be wet in the summer too. It's usually just hit and miss storm chances though, very isolated. So it really just comes down to if you get lucky or not on the summertime convection. But with this trough coming through, we've got a pretty good group of storms trying to flare up from eastern New Mexico all the way through the Texas Panhandle, southern Texas Panhandle to be more specific, and then back into maybe parts of Oklahoma, which could see some additional storms develop overnight tonight and into tomorrow morning. Getting some pretty good source densities to flare up here on the county line too, right here. I wouldn't be shocked if this one near Addy and Bowden flares back up in the next scan. There's a lot of source densities being depicted there. Canyon, you guys are going to have that warning canceled. Just got it canceled there in Randall County. So no more severe weather for the moment. We'll watch this stuff coming out of Oldham and Potter County. Looks like some more moderate rain now in Bushland with this small shower coming through. I really do think things are kind of on a downward trend in terms of severe weather potential. A lot of this stuff will be marginal through the rest of tonight. Going to get an aerial flood advisory, it looks like, south of 60 and west of 27. So it's probably going to encompass Buffalo Lake and then areas south of Umbarger and Don. So that aerial flood advisory here is going to be in effect until 11:15 p.m. this evening. The one here in Amarillo is until 10:30. And we've really seen a lot of that water actually recede already. It did cause a two semi wreck there underneath Washington Street on I-40. One of them was a FedEx truck, so some people not going to be getting their packages when they expected them to. Pretty chaotic motion to these storms. Not general from a broad view, they're moving southeast, but we've got a few of them riding some outflow boundaries, and so some of them are moving in some different directions. Got one here in Palmer County moving east northeast, some others moving southeast through Deaf Smith County. So we're still getting some convergence in here. Wouldn't be shocked to see this stuff fill in and become a big complex though as we get further into tonight. Good little core of rain and pretty small hail there north of Headley, moving southeast. It's moving towards Wellington. So here's that flood advisory, that new one that just got issued. That'll be until 12:15 a.m. That's going to encompass areas east of Hereford from Highway 60 over towards I-27, and to include Happy. So instability is definitely starting to wane. I mean, you can tell these storms definitely don't have as much of a punch as they did earlier. And again, the sun has gone down. Temperatures are in the 70s and 60s for most of us. Now, if we're going to get a severe storm, I think it's going to be down here towards like Wellington, back up towards Shamrock. There's quite a bit of instability over here still. We've got some temperatures still in the 80s in some of these places. And so we've probably got enough juice in the atmosphere to get a severe storm, maybe two down there. But we should be losing a lot of that severe weather threat for the rest of tonight pretty quick. I'm just going to let you guys kind of watch the radar here for a little bit this evening. I'm going to try and clear my throat. Allergies have been kicking my hindquarters since I mowed the lawn this weekend. I'm sure some of you guys have the same issue I do, but I'll be back in a minute or two. All right, we'll see how long that lasts before I need to separate ways for another minute or two. But we've got some storms trying to line out there in the west side of Potter County. We may get another quick shower here around parts of Amarillo. Again, the instability is really waning, so I would be shocked to see many of these storms still at severe limits. I mean, we may have one or two down here on the northeast side of Swisher County, areas south of Hereford, Don, and Umbarger, Buffalo Lake. You guys may have a pretty strong storm, probably pushing severe limits down there. I would imagine our severe weather is probably going to be mostly focused down here in the southeast through the remainder of this evening. Temperatures are still pretty hot down here at the surface. We're seeing still some mid to upper 80 temperatures in some spots, whereas we're in the 60s here in Amarillo right now. It's 68, 66 degrees, depending on which side of town you're on. 64 down in the Paladero Canyon State Park, and then 65 in Panhandle. So, I mean, there's a nice cold pool of air here around the city. And so it's going to be nice and cool, I think, for the remainder of tonight. We actually have your low at 64. That might be a little high. We may end up closer to about 60, just depending on where our dew points end up. But a lot of our dew points are still in the mid 60s, so we'll see if we can get some maybe a little bit drier air pulled in and funneled in. There's some dew points in the 50s in some spots, mainly down towards Clarendon, and then back up here towards Borger. They've got a couple of dew points in the high 50s. Really starting to see that big complex of storms start to fill in on the infrared satellite imagery. At least the Anvil cloud tops are starting to fill in out here. So just again, just becoming a little bit more mature of a system in the southwest panhandle and eastern New Mexico. Childress, you guys are about to see some more heavy rain come rolling through. There's a small little group of storms that are moving north and east. There's probably going to be some pockets in here that really benefit from some heavier rainfall amounts. I mean, there could be some spots in here that pick up 2 to 3 inches of rainfall tonight. Maybe not Childress specifically, but like that south central panhandle, there's going to be some areas in here that pick up 2 to 3 inches worth of rainfall. Models do depict that there should be a pretty good complex coming from Clovis down through Lubbock here over the next 6 to 10 hours too. So if you're from Lubbock to Levelland to Plainview to Hereford, Clovis, and Portales, could be a really nice swath of rain in here as we get into tonight. Starting to see some pulsy showers going up here on the west side of town in Amarillo. These are going to be probably sub-severe as they come through the area. So we got a new severe thunderstorm warning there in Quay and Curry County. This little cell pulsed up here. It's got a pretty cool cloud top on it. The National Weather Service went ahead and issued it for quarter-sized hail and winds up to 60 miles per hour. That one's going to be moving towards Grady. Storm north of Memphis is going to get a severe warning on it. This one here, east northeast of Headley, heading towards Wellington, but really in between Wellington and Childress. 1-inch hail and 60-mile-an-hour winds are going to be for that one. So there's that new warning until 10:30 p.m. 1-inch hail and 60-mile-an-hour winds again is what that storm's expected to be able to produce. Starting to see a really nice flare up of storms around Childress. Let's see what it looks like there on the camera. Looks like it stopped working about 3 days ago. See what it looks like in Clarendon. You can see again, quieter conditions on the other side of the panhandle towards Channing. No rain up there. They are expected to stay dry for tonight. Starting to see another cell really pulse up there on the northwest side of Amarillo. Going to see this warning trimmed a lot. Probably only going to see areas like Mendota encompassed in this warning out here. A lot of these are probably going to just be producing some very heavy rain at this point. I may let you just kind of watch the radar. Again, these are all marginally severe storms, if they're severe at all. Maybe you could see some pea-sized hail coming into Bishop Hills in the northwest side of Amarillo. All right, y'all, we haven't really seen any new severe storms pulse up here recently. It's just been a handful of these being trimmed away from the area. So we're going to give you one more update before we end the live stream. Things, at least the instability is waning, but we will probably still see some heavy rain across portions of the area, specifically the south side of the Texas Panhandle. So let's go ahead and go in from west to east. We still have that severe warning storm out here in Quay County. That's going to run until 8:45, so that should be allowed to expire here in the very near future. Now, as we go a little bit further east, we still have this one out here until 9:45. That one likely to expire as well. We do have a flash flood warning that was recently issued down here in parts of Briscoe and northeast Swisher County. That's just due to very heavy rainfall, rain rates up to 2 to 3 inches per hour, likely falling in some of these storms down in the South Panhandle. And then we have this other severe warning storm, which will be in effect until 10:30 p.m. So this may be the only one that still kind of hangs around for the next 30 minutes or so, which is down in the southeast panhandle, kind of like we talked about earlier this evening. As we go ahead and scroll up, this one here near Canadian, going to probably expire in a couple of minutes. These very isolated storms. We do have a small little group that's coming into the north side of town, so you will probably see some moderate rain for 5-10 minutes as this continues to drift through the city, likely going to dissipate slowly as it continues that south and east journey. But most of our active storms starting to really get going are over here in part of Deaf Smith and Quay County. These should start to track to the south and southeast. And then we'll also see a lot of this stuff continue down here in the southeast panhandle for the next several hours. But that's pretty much all that's going on. Just some moderate to heavy rainfall in some places. A few of these still got a severe warning storm tag to them, but we're really losing a lot of our instability. So I wouldn't be shocked to see all these severe those might be the last severe thunderstorm warnings that we have of the evening. You can see it looks like it's really kind of pulsed up here up on the north side of town. So maybe some heavy rain for a short period of time up there on the north side of Amarillo. But the rest of us here in the city anyway, it's relatively quiet. Maybe hearing a few rumbles of thunder, but that's pretty much what's going on. So that's where we're going to end your live. Make sure that you guys are still staying weather aware tonight. Again, we probably are going to have a few areas with some flooding issues, specifically south of the I-40 corridor. Really in that southern row or two of counties that we cover is where we would expect most of our flooding to continue to tonight. So just make sure that you've got a way to stay notified for things like that. But the severe weather threat definitely looks like it's coming to an end. Thank you guys for staying tuned with us here at ABC 7. We will see you tonight in our 10 o'clock